Direct from Foxboro, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxboro Cable Access. It's Foxboro Central, and here's your host, Bob Hickey.
Hi there, welcome to another great episode of Foxboro Central. I'm Bob Hickey, your host today for another episode of the things, the people, the events that make Foxboro the gem of Norfolk County. And today we are talking about an event. We're talking about the National Night Out Against Crime. And joining me are, to my left, Linda Walsh.
Hi, Bob.
Community volunteer, and Ed O'Leary,
Bob, good to see you again.
Police chief. Welcome aboard, welcome aboard. So National Night Out Against Crime. This has been a project that's been around for many, many years. I'm excited to have you here because I like talking about it. It's one of my early on favorite projects when I became a JC, when you and I joined in 1993. So, we've been doing this for a while, but it's older than that even. This is what year?
It's actually the 25th year that Foxboro's been involved with this project, going back to just the late 80s. It was a much smaller event, and certainly just about 1993, the JCs became more actively involved in providing manpower for the event, helping set the stage, so-called, for the Common to be used. At that time, the Youth Coalition, with Kathy Bourne and Joan Galvin, were spearheading programs targeting youth to get them more involved in the community. And we've had partnerships with them in the past, now with the JCs, to provide a nice evening for Foxboro families to come up to the Common, enjoy some music, gather some crime prevention materials from my staff and other groups that support us in the community, and just have some fun on a very relaxed way. Well,
at the beginning of every program, we should really bring out the highlight, the headline, if you will. When is it? It's on a Tuesday?
It's the first Tuesday in August, which is August 6th this year. We anticipate to have a nice crowd for the family. We'll be starting at 6 p.m. and we wind up things just about 9 p.m.
Okay, so it's going to be on the first Tuesday of August, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And what age groups are we looking for?
We've had families with newborn infants come up to the event, to our senior citizens that are part of the triad group that work with the sheriff to prevent crime amongst senior citizens in our community.
Okay, so it's for everybody.
It's everyone.
It's on the Foxboro Common.
It's on the Foxboro Common.
It's on the Foxboro Common.
Yes.
And what are some of the activities going on?
Well, we'll have officers there. We have some giveaways for families in terms of plastic badges for the kids, those tattoos, the temporary tattoos that have the patch, the Foxboro Police Department patch that we found that kids really enjoy having. And we'll have one of the things that kids can jump around in, the moonwalks that we all like. And Bob, you can get in one if there are no kids in it if you want.
Take your shoes off.
Just take your shoes off.
That's right.
But that, we're getting a DJ to play some music for us as the night goes on, and hopefully we'll have some different people or different agencies represented that are very active in helping our community stay safe and stay healthy.
Okay, and as part of the JC's work with the community, of course, they'll be out and helping out.
Right.
So over the years, what are some of the things that you've seen? Because I know you've been involved with this project several times, as I've seen you there and also in your role as selectman. So what have you, what's the message that you think is going to be strong out there on Tuesday night?
Again, I think it's the chief and his department, there for support of the community, that you can go and ask questions and find out more information, where to go if there's a situation or what to do. And, we've taken on a role for, we believe it's 18 years. So, and the event itself is
We're having a pre-taping conference, so we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's nationally, it's the 25th anniversary, and so that's huge. So the JCs have always been there to help with manpower. We certainly don't have the expertise as the chief and his crew, but we learn how to point in the right directions.
So it's a community event, but also a strong message of crime prevention. So, Chief, what is the message?
Well,
Because we know there's no crime in Foxborough.
I wish that was true, Bob. That would make for a nicer community. Like many communities in the region, we've had an increase in the number of home burglaries, especially during daytime hours. We've been very fortunate in working with other communities of developing cases against those individuals involved. Many of those people, unfortunately, have drug addiction problems that are driving them to steal others' property, turn it into cash that supports their drug habit. Foxborough, we're a very safe community. Our crime rate hasn't really gone up in any measurable amount, and that's because we have great support in the community. People are more aware to lock their cars, not have things visible, in the cars themselves. Simple things like locking their home, which has taken a long time to get people used to, because many people in the community still feel that Foxborough was trapped in a time warp of the 60s when people rarely, if ever, lock their homes. But there are other things that go on as well. You saw recently in the paper about a financial scam that was being occurred right just down the street at Bank North, where people had counterfeit checks that they were depositing into fictitious accounts and then drawing cash out. So those are the things that we have to be concerned with, and I don't think a week goes by that we don't have someone calling us because either their identity or their credit cards have been stolen and misused. So we have to keep track of those things, and hopefully by coming to the Common that night, we'll have information to deal with these particular crime trends that are affecting us regionally as well as here in Foxborough.
It's interesting because, and then again, I'm speaking with Chief O'Leary, Foxborough PD, and with Linda Walsh with the JCs, and talking about the National Night Out Against Crime, which is going to be on August 6th, the first Tuesday of August here on the Common. So in my fuzzy, vague memory of this, to me, it was mostly a young kid type event where you come out, and I believe that some of your officers volunteer and come out and do the ID cards.
Right. In the past, we've actually done the fingerprinting ourselves. Now we're providing parents with a kit that they can do their own fingerprinting at home and also collect a DNA swab that they might want to store away safely, again, against the mischance that something tragic happens, that we'd have additional evidence.
Well, the DNA swab is interesting. In the DeSalvo case that just was publicized of how they went back decades and were able to make a positive match to bring some closure to that poor victim's family. How interesting that is. And I remember my son is one of the camera operators here today, and my daughter, we had those ID, the packet with the ID in our drawer and had them there for decades ourselves. Not that I'm getting older, but so the DNA is a pretty interesting piece. How intrusive is that? How safe is it?
Well,
and I don't mean safe as far as none of us are going to hurt our kids, but what is the integrity of the information that's on the swab?
That's the key thing with the swab. It's put into a protective case that can then be kept by a parent. And as we've seen, even though time has gone by with evidence that was processed at an earlier age, we're talking about DeSalvo, unfortunately, was murdering young women in the early 1960s, yet from one of those victims, they were able to reconstitute evidence that directly linked him to that horrific crime and therefore others like it. The technology has improved as the methodology of gathering evidence, that becomes more crucial today more than ever as other types of investigations, whether it's witness identification. They've tightened guidelines in the courts on gathering that type of data. So physical evidence, such as fingerprint evidence, becomes even more crucial. The department, thanks to support from the community, has been able to keep up with those technology changes. And it's frequently when we're fingerprinting someone that has given us a name as their identification, we find that that person has other names matched by his fingerprints. And we're getting that information back within a half an hour of fingerprinting the individual because, again, the rapid evolution of technology and its application.
I always find you a fascinating talk to have, Chief, and I'm so glad you're here today. And of course, we're talking about the National Night Out Against Crime, but let's circle it back. So I remember in my time as selectman and in your subsequent time as selectman, you always came with, before us with new technologies. And I remember at one point there was an automatic fingerprint reader that
Right.
you wanted to purchase, and you're sort of on the right side of the bell curve on this one. And so you're alluding to that, I think, when you're talking about matching a name with a fingerprint immediately. So the officers now have that in their patrol cars, and they can...
Not to that extent, Bob.
No.
But we'll
See,
get there.
that's why I toss them out there, and then we have the conversation. This is good.
I eventually envision that that will be part of the computer package.
Isn't it just an application now on your iPhone? I say that almost kiddingly.
We see
because
that
I'm
on
pretty sure
NCIS, but the town hasn't quite got there because we're based on a state system that hasn't quite got there.
I was going to say we're based on reality, not
Right,
Hollywood. but-
yes, and
Just
as a
snap
result,
your fingers and it happens.
down the road, I envision that that will become a reality, much
the
like the
database has to be
technology.
created and then everything
That's
has to be
correct.
integrated,
Foxboro was one of the first communities in the region to have the in-car computers that officers could run license plates and have data before they approach a suspect vehicle that's committed a traffic infraction. And that capability has grown so that officers from the field could actually type up reports and submit them to the data management system. So we've been fortunate, again, with support of the town, to keep up with the evolution of technology in law enforcement.
Excellent, excellent. So with the National Night Out Against Crime, we're doing, not that I'm paraphrasing, but you're bringing this to the public and they can come up and ask questions and there's going to be information available. And did you say the DA was going to be out?
Well, I'm hoping to have a member of the DA staff join us. They're doing more in the line of crime prevention now than ever before. And District Attorney Morrissey has really made it a keynote that preventing crime is better for all our communities than having to go to trial with different criminal suspects.
So, Linda, in your role as selectman, I was always interested in watching the meetings and seeing what happened in public. What are your impression on trends? And then I'm going to check you against what the reality is, and that's why I love having this type of conversation. So, what do you, because the chief had mentioned crimes against senior citizens. What did you have to deal with in the last few years as far as seeing, observing, supporting?
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to be a selectman to understand what's going on.
People would argue, I really don't understand what's going on no matter what. So.
Right. So, but as the chief mentioned, there are a lot of schemes out there against our senior citizens, and the chief, as well as the folks down at the center, have tried to educate them. There's been programs to educate them on, if someone calls, you don't give out your social security number. It doesn't matter if you say, you've won this lottery, chances are you didn't. So education is real important, and I think that's going to happen on Tuesday night. Another thing, you talk about history. I know what the chief is saying because for years I never locked my house. I don't even think my mom knew where the key was to the front door because we lived in Foxboro and it just happened.
Right.
You'd go to Cumberland Farms and you'd leave the car running with your purse and it didn't matter. Well, it wasn't until, it struck me and my GPS system was gone, and I went down, holding my head low, saying, yes, I was one of them that, well, you didn't lock the car, Linda? No, I didn't lock the car. So you'll be locking the car now? Yes, I will, and I will be locking my home too. So, things have, like you said, that's the history, and unfortunately we're, Foxboro is in a little bubble. We're as affected as any town around us.
Right.
So,
Well, that's the thing. Mayberry was a great place to see on TV, but unfortunately, the roads that go to Mount Pilot also come from Mount Pilot,
Exactly.
and people can come from out of town and do
Yep.
bad things. In fact, that string of burglaries you alluded to earlier in the program, that was done by, I think it was a couple, or allegedly a suspect, a couple from out of town.
That has frequently happened. When we had a series, we have another group that's operating. My detectives are working with detectives from Bellingham, Franklin, Walpole, because they've committed a string of burglaries, and we're in the process of gathering evidence against several members of this group. So they do a burglary, they're finding a place that they're getting rid of the material, and hopefully, we'll bring that to fruition. Unfortunately, we cannot replace many of those items, especially if you had jewelry that belonged to a parent or a grandparent that was yours. Now, trying to find those mementos is almost impossible. Hopefully, by at least bringing these people to trial, at least there's some satisfaction that they won't be breaking into other people's homes for a period of time.
You mentioned other towns, and I suppose that's an excellent point to make, is that it's not just Foxboro, it's any small community that feels safe, perhaps becomes a target. And as we know, criminals and scammers are a little low on the morals and a little high on opportunity, and will take advantage. And we can go into whole societal issues of blaming their parents and they had bad upbringings, but the simple fact remains that people are vulnerable. And you mentioned the seniors, and one of my, and I'm not going to say favorite scams in the sense of I think it's good. I think it's a horrible scam, but this one where on the internet people fish into email inboxes or address boxes, and they then send out and a friend of mine was victimized by this. They send out an email with your address on it. So please help me, I'm stuck in London, or I'm stuck in Bellingham. Please send $500 fast via wire so I can get home. Have you seen that?
Well, actually, within the past month, we had someone that has local connections that we got a email letter. I got one on my department email saying that he and his wife were in the Philippines, something had happened, and as a result, could we please send, for some reason, $1,450 sticks in my head to this, wire the money to this account.
That's an excellent point, because on this one, I think it was something like $560. It was an odd amount.
Right.
So that made you believe it was real.
That it was a real thing.
This is how much it's going to cost my
And I'm thinking, the person and his wife, if they were stuck in a bind like that, certainly could call any one of several hundred people that would certainly help them out. And finally, a committee that he was with sent out a clarification email for fear that some people might have been taken in by the scam. And that's one that I hear frequently from victims, especially the seniors that have limited incomes, no ability to replace that money that has been taken.
And get an email from a family member, and obviously very concerned about that person, and would act.
Would act and not think anything of it. The banks, I think, are doing better now when someone that they've known as a customer comes in and is looking to make a withdrawal of an unusual amount. Usually they engage them to try and find out what's going on, when you go outside. So I think even the banks are more aware from a preventative point, who their customers are, and that's a good thing on the local level.
Well, I know also the banks, by law, have to do due diligence to ensure anti-drug laundering, anti-terrorist
Right.
acts have been passed, and so there's a higher level of review. So perhaps that is of benefit to folks as they go in from a customer standpoint. Hi, I like to wire $560 to
Right, the Philippines.
my Aunt Edna in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if I or my parents or my grandparents get this type of an email, what should we do? Should we forward the email to the police department? Should we call you? Should we just delete it? What is
I
the
think
best thing to do?
one of the things that's helpful for us, if you call the department to say you've received it, we're much more active on Facebook now.
Yes.
Thanks to some of the talents of the people that I work with. I was still calling it Face Page, and they got all upset. But I've
And I
noticed
probably
that.
allowed that to go through because I wouldn't
Yes,
know one way or the
but we're updating different alerts to the community. Because chances are, if one member of our community has received the email, hundreds have. And we just want to make sure that people aren't taken in by these scams. And to get back to the Facebook page, and I'm going to put a plug in for a couple of different things
Absolutely.
we have coming up.
Because I'm sure that also the National Night Out Against Crime is going to be on your Facebook
Right.
as
In
well.
fact, that's up there. Hugs Foxboro, that I'm hoping will join us that Tuesday night, has done numerous programs alerting people to the dangers of domestic violence, prevention of dating violence for teenagers. Back in April, they presented a play down at the Ahern School for the 8th graders on teen dating violence. We had a community forum in May that was actually, we're in the process of doing some audio repair to the tape, but cable access filmed it, and we want to broadcast it again. And they're actually having a self-defense program for women and their daughters at Personal Best Community later in August. In fact, the date and the flyer is up on the Foxborough Police Facebook page.
Of course, Chris Rapold runs a great
Yes, he
program
does.
down there, and he does a lot for the community.
Chris has been very active since Hugs first approached him several years ago. We're going to be joined by Sharon Hugs, that also has a support group, and we want to have a good turnout. Getting back to the seniors, we're actually having officers that are part of our regional tactical squad at the senior luncheon that they're having Thursday at noon, just to do some displays about what their role is in a critical incident to support whatever local police department they're going to. And we've noticed that more and more times the teams are being called out to other towns in Norfolk County when we have an arrest that may indicate that people are armed or a high-risk warrant arrest where people are known to resist. And we're very fortunate to have some trained members of that unit on our department, and that helps bring up the training level of the other officers they work with.
There's a lot of information there, and I think that the message that a lot of us can take from that is that Foxborough is a safe community, but there's a lot of work that goes into making it a safe community. And it seems as though one of the first steps that anybody can take is to contact the department to let you know what's going on. And the telephone number there is 508-543-4343.
They can use that one or 543-1212, whatever easier.
The things I can remember.
Yeah.
I can remember 4343. So with the threats to seniors, let's bring it to the other side. What are some of the trends now with children? I was watching the news, I'm sure we all do, and there's identity theft is a huge issue. And there's a trend now with identity theft of children. Am I off on this? Am I just feeding into the media?
Well, it's been in the media. We have not had any particular instances of it here. But if people are capturing data about children or a social security number that many of us have to have now when we file our taxes, each child has to have a social security number. People are getting those identities and misusing them. So we haven't had a lot of those cases, but it's very rampant down south and out west.
Really? Well, let's hope it stays elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
Yes. So the National Night Out Against Crime which is on August 6th, the first Tuesday in August at the Foxboro Common, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. If I'm a family coming out, is this going to cost me $100 to show up at, Linda?
No,
Why not?
because everything's free.
Everything's free.
Yes.
Why is everything free?
Because we want to encourage people to come up and get the information that they need to be proactive against crimes and things like that. Just, education is the best offense that we have, and that's where you're going to get it on Tuesday night on the 6th.
Okay, and if I bring my family, we're just all going to sit there and listen to a lecture, right?
No, you're not.
No.
No, the kids are gonna go in the bouncy house. You and your wife are gonna go to the different tables and get information, and the kids are gonna get their badges and become friends with
The officers that are
the
there?
officers that are there, and it's just yet
So it's
another night for the town to get together in a fun way to be educated.
So it's a fun time.
It's a fun
So
time.
if parents have no concern about crime, although they should, and if families have no issues with crime, although they're deluding themselves if they think there is no issue, they should still come out from 6 to
Absolutely.
9 just to have some fun.
Yes.
It's a great evening. If the weather's with us, listen to some music and just enjoy themselves in the nice community that Foxboro is.
Very good. Chief, I want to thank you so much for coming out, and let's get that Facebook page.
Excuse me?
Facebook. If I were going on
Foxboro.
Facebook, I would be a friend of the Foxboro Police Department.
That's right.
Okay. For those of you who know how to do that, you know what to do. For those of you who don't, find your children and they'll teach you how to do it. Linda, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob.
And I know the weather's going to be perfect on August 6th, first Tuesday, for National Night Out Against Crime. I hope to see all of you out there on the Foxboro Common as you enjoy a little fellowship, a little friendship, and get prepared. It's a great program, and I know that Foxboro is a stronger place because of the work of the Chief and the JCs. Until I see you next time on Foxboro Central, I'm Bob Hickey. Have a great one.